Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and this is the Olight Oknife Fortitude. It's an entry into the fixed blade space, and boy did they hit it hard with this one. Rock solid. It's got a D2 blade, D2 steel blade, G10 Scales, full tang all the way around. Excellent contour on the G10 handle. It's a heavy knife, fairly stout. I'm going to compare it to a few others. It's got a Cerakote finish throughout, which is kind of on this one an olive green. This thing weighs about 10.9 ounces, about 300, a little over 300 grams, and it just fits great in the hand. I'm impressed. And the more I use it, the more I realize, you know, it's well within a quality knife spec. And I'm going to compare it to Benchmade and Oknife and SOG. Comes from the factory razor sharp. I mean, look at that. This is... I keep cutting anyway. Pretty amazing. So, let's take a close look compared to some others. It's a fairly straightforward design, kind of more of a clip point, but not a full clip here. It does have a thumb ramp with a little bit of jimping there. The jimping does recede into the handle there, so it fits quite well without too aggressive a feature. I'll show you more aggressive ones in a moment. Just a light choil here. Absolutely little going on as far as trying to get a finger in there. Not really worth it. And then the mild ricossa. It does have an extended guard here. You can see excellent finish on the blade. Nice bevel all the way to the tip. The spine thickens out. You can see there is a bevel here as well. That's pretty common on a lot of these knives now. All the way back, a slight swoop in the spine. This does have a fairly aggressive, but not super aggressive, 90-degree angle. This is not 90 here. So a fire steel, depending on your aggression, it may or may not work here, but you can easily use the blade for those to get something going if you need to start a fire. The finish all the way around from the mating of the handle to the actual metal, the metal tang of the blade is pretty much perfect. It's held on by two hex screws. I think they're hex, or they torque screws, excuse me. It is a tail heavy or a handle heavy blade. That's not unusual when you go with thick G10. G10 has excellent thermal properties, resistance to many fluids, feels good in the hand, super durable. Came with a sticker, Fortitude. You know, they usually do challenge coins and stickers, or I mean in patches, not a sticker, excuse me. With the bear here, I find that interesting living in Montana. I wonder what the rest of the world thinks about bears. You know, we have lots of them here, so be careful. You know, stay away from Montana. It's a bad place. It'll get you killed. Now, Olight started into the knives by going after the folding knife space, which to me is the trickier of the knives, just simply because moving parts add complexity. But so far, they have produced some excellent knives. I've been carrying this Parrot since it came out, and this thing has gone with me all over the place through a dozen different states and 2 countries. But the Fortitude is my first entry into the Olight fixed blade. So let's compare it. First of all, it comes with this sheath. Feels like Kydex. It does have a belt, kind of a quick release belt adapter for it. This does sit low, or excuse me, high on the sheath. So the way this rides on a belt, if you had a belt in there, this is going to stick up pretty far. That's not unusual with a lot of knives. Now, some of them go the opposite. They'll go to more of a dangler design to get the knife low. Well, what are you trying to do? You're trying to have it in a position that it's easy to access, but also is not going to get in the way when you're sitting. So this one chooses to ride up high on the belt, which means this is not going to impact the seat you're sitting on. You know, your butt's going to still be below it. And then the danglers basically are going to move out of the way or slide around. There's a great big loop here, so the dangler concept will flip around. So I'm going to compare it starting with this SOG. SOG has a similar sheath without the belt attachment here. If we look at the designs, fairly similar, much more aggressive jimping. You can see the jimping here rises above the handle. I think this is a micarta handle here, and I'll talk about the difference between micarta and G10 in a sec. This is a S90V, I believe, steel. Or S35V, excuse me. This is USA made. It's an expensive knife. Very similar design in the blade, kind of a modified clip point. This uses a straight ridge to the point, and this has a bit of a swoop to it, a little bit more like a clip point. The original Bowie knives were a fairly pronounced clip point. There was like something clipped out the top of it. It also, if you look, where does the point of the knife align with the handle? And that's part of a kind of a thrusting concept. If you raise it too high, then the knife twists. If it's too low, it twists the other way. So sometimes the alignment there for more puncturing is what's up. Notice this has a much more pronounced finger choil here than here. So you can, whoops, just cut my sheet or my tool roll here. So you can choke up on this as well. Another difference, you can see that they wrapped the G10 all the way around the tang of the knife, whereas this has an extended tang that sticks out beyond the scales. Very similar mating process for the scales to the tang, and I don't believe there's any skeletonization in this, which is again why it's fairly heavy. And these feel about the same. They're pretty stout. Now, as far as the G10 goes, here's a Benchmade. This is a Siebert design, again using the D2 steel, so it has pretty much the same steel. As long as it's heat treated well, you'll get about the same performance. I don't mind the D2 steel. It's more of a tool steel than a super steel. So it's a working steel, but it may not hold the blade edge as long as you like, say compared to like an S35V here, but it's going to be much easier to field sharpen than some of these. And also, a lot of the benefits of the super steel come as the blade thins. So the thick blades, you're not getting some of the super steel benefits. Another one to compare it to, I'll go ahead and bring up this is the Falcon Even F1X. It's in their Survival series, their X series. Again, very similar design here. The F1 was one of Falcon Even's initial designs, and you can see this is one of the original style, where it has a thermal run handle completely encasing the tang. It actually has a narrowed tang here, but here they've fully thickened it up and kept the thickness of the tang throughout. And I have a lot of experience with this knife. Great knife. Again, they're using a thermal run scale with three mounting points. I prefer the G10. The G10 is actually a much stronger and superior, in my mind, handle material. One thing, though, I did notice is right here, and you can see there's a little bit of marking there. I've been kind of playing with this. They didn't contour the lanyard, the G10 aspect of the lanyard hole right here. So this is a fairly sharp edge. It's not like going to cut you or something, but they've contoured it, kind of melted the features everywhere else, and you can feel it right there. So that's one thing I did notice. Not a big deal. It's just, as far as the smoothness of this knife, that is one area that's got an edge to it. The fit and finish in the hand, or the fit in the hand and the finish overall is perfect. The Cerakote is an excellent feature. D2 is a common knife steel that is often covered. You can see that Benchmade coated theirs as well. That can prevent some of the staining and rust, but it's not a big deal, not as a big deal with the D2 steel compared to some other high carbon steels. But overall, An excellent entry, pretty solid. It's heavier than the F1. It's on par with this F1X, and you can see that the F1X actually has a much thicker profile. This is just overkill. Some people don't like that. It's just too beefy. It reduces some of the efficacy in certain jobs, just having too thick of something. A small knife like this, I don't recommend batoning or wood splitting with it. I mean, you could probably up to a 2-inch log, but there are other tools like, you know, hatchets and axes and saws. That's why we use those. So if you had to beat on this thing, yeah, you could, but I wouldn't. That just is such a low skill job, you know, pummeling on wood to break it apart when you've got such a precision instrument as this. The rotation, nice and smooth. Some, if they have too many finger choils or finger index points in the handle, you get hot spots as you start to use it in other positions. But this indexes nicely. You know where you are on the blade. I do like that they added a little bit of an extra guard there. That's something that Falcon even learned when they moved their F1 into the F1 Pro, and then into the F1X, is they started to increase the guard. Benchmade is really an elaborate guard, plus jimping under there. This is a solid grip knife. A lot of people put paracord over these, you know, or create some kind of a handle. This one's designed for me to be super light, super handy. I don't use it much simply because of that, but this one, definitely a workhorse of a knife. I would recommend it, especially for the price. You can get into one of these between $70 and $80. This is a couple hundred. Actually, these might be a little less now. You're dealing a little over 100 usually for one of these. These Benchmades have gone off the chart. I don't know what those are now. I would guess it's over 200. And this one has been floating around 200 with the F1X. But anyway, Cerakote G10 D2 steel, quality warranty, great fit and finish, solid performer, great sheath with the included belt clip, so you could also use it. It's solid enough. It's not the strongest retention here. You could probably melt it tighter if you wanted. Some of these, you know, the saw with the thumb ramp, this is in pretty tight, but I can push that out. The Benchmade is a little on the too tight side. You might have noticed at the beginning of the video. I actually had it pulled out so I didn't knock my camera over trying to yank this thing out and finally freeing it. So you set it up for your use case. So for vertical handle up belt carry, this is plenty good. If you wanted to mount it in a reverse on a pack or on a you know, some other vest you're wearing, you may either want to add some active retention, or you may want to tighten this up just a little bit so it's harder to pull out. It's not going to fall out, but if you fell down a mountainside, you'd probably pop this free. As far as the color, I like it. I like the accents of the G10 and the black, or with the green and the black, and then the Cerakote finish. And it's held up. I mean, I just wipe it off, and it seems to clean up. I can get most of the activity off the blade. It's one thing what people like about stainless is, you know, you can clean them out. But again, this one I've beat on. You can see that it's, you know, got a little bit of mark on it, but not bad at all. So anyway, there it is. Fortitude at the O-Buy store, and I believe they're on sale right now. So check them out. With that, Doc out.